Captain Isabella Reyes stood at the helm of the starship Artemis, her eyes fixed on the vast emptiness before her. The exploration vessel's night shift was usually quiet, but something felt different about this particular evening. The ship's quantum sensors had been picking up unusual energy signatures for the past hour, too faint to classify, but too regular to be natural phenomena. "Captain," Lieutenant Patel called from his station, his dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of his console. "The signal's getting stronger. It's like nothing I've ever seen before." Isabella moved to his station, her weathered hands resting on the back of his chair. 20 years of deep space exploration had taught her to trust her instincts, and right now, they were screaming that this was important. "Show me the pattern," she ordered, watching as crystalline waves of light danced across the screen. The signal pulsed with an almost organic rhythm, like a heartbeat translated into pure energy. "It's not matching any known communication protocols," Patel reported, his fingers flying over the controls. "But there's something else, these energy signatures. They're degrading rapidly, following a pattern consistent with failing life support systems." Isabella straightened, her decision already made. "Plot an intercept course. Full power to engines." "Captain," First Officer Marcus Way's voice carried a note of caution. "We're 3 light-years outside Federation space. Protocol dictates we investigate all potential distress signals." Isabella cut him off, turning to face her crew. "And that's exactly what we're going to do." The Artemis changed course, its massive engines pushing the ship to maximum speed. As they drew closer, their long-range scanners began picking up more details. The source was a ship, but its design defied conventional engineering. Instead of metal and composite materials, it seemed to be grown from some kind of crystalline substance that absorbed and reflected light in impossible ways. "Life signs?" Isabella asked, leaning forward in her chair. "2," Way reported, his voice hushed with wonder. "But they're unlike anything in our database. They're giving off their own bioluminescence." The alien vessel came into view on their main screen, and the bridge crew fell silent. The ship was beautiful, like a piece of living art drifting through space. But its glory was fading. Parts of the crystal hull were growing dark, and the internal lights were flickering weakly. "They're dying," Isabella whispered, recognizing the signs of a ship in its death throes. "Open all frequencies, maximum range. Let's see if we can dash." A burst of pure light erupted from the alien vessel, so bright it made the bridge crew shield their eyes. When it faded, patterns of light danced across their view screen, not random, but structured. "Communication. Computer, begin analysis," Isabella ordered. "Look for mathematical patterns, universal constants, anything we can use to establish basic communication." Minutes ticked by as the computer worked. Finally, it produced a preliminary translation matrix. The message was simple but clear. "Help. Child. Cold. Dying." Isabella's jaw tightened. She'd lost her own daughter years ago to a space accident. Never again, she'd promised herself. Never another child lost to the void if she could help it. "Prepare emergency docking procedures," she commanded. "Medical team to airlock 3. Environmental controls. Start adjusting atmosphere composition based on their ship's readings. And someone get me Dr. Rhodes. We're going to need her expertise in xenobiology." "Captain," Way stepped closer, speaking quietly. "These beings, we know nothing about them. They could be dangerous. They could be contagious. They could be dying." Isabella finished for him. "They could be dying, Marcus. And they have a child with them." She turned to face her first officer fully. "Sometimes the right thing and the safe thing aren't the same thing. You know where I stand on that." Wade nodded slowly, a small smile touching his lips. "I'll prep the medical bay myself. As the crew sprang into action, Isabella watched the alien ship growing larger on their screen. Its lights were pulsing weaker now, like a fading heartbeat. They had minutes, maybe hours at most. "Hold on," she whispered to the unknown beings aboard. "Just hold on. We're coming." In the next few hours, Isabella Reyes and her crew would face challenges they'd never trained for, make decisions that would alter the course of human history, and prove that sometimes the greatest strength lies not in power or technology, but in the simple choice to help those in need. The Artemis moved alongside the crystal ship, its docking procedures beginning. As the ships drew closer, the light patterns from the alien vessel grew more erratic, more desperate. Time was running out, and the real test of humanity's compassion was about to begin. The docking procedure was moments from completion when the Artemis's warning system screamed to life. 3 ships had just dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons already charging. "Raider vessels!" Lieutenant Patel shouted, his hands flying across his console. "Thoraxian design, they're pirates!" Isabella's mind raced. The Thoraxians were notorious for scavenging abandoned ships, often ensuring they were abandoned first. "Shields up! But maintain the docking procedure." "Captain, we can't do both," Wade protested. "The docking field interferes with the shield harmonics." "Then we get creative," Isabella snapped. "Divert power from non-essential systems. Route shield energy to cover our docking point specifically. And get me a channel to those raiders." The lead raider ship's captain appeared on screen, his scaled face twisted in what passed for a smile among his species. "Captain Reyes," he purred, "how fortunate. The great humanitarian of the Federation, caught in such a compromising position." "Captain Zexkar," Isabella replied, recognizing the infamous pirate leader. "This vessel is under our protection. Stand down." The Thoraxian laughed, a harsh sound like grinding metal. "Protection? You can barely protect yourself right now. That ship contains valuable crystalline technology. Step aside, and we might let your crew live." While this exchange continued, Dr. Samira Rhodes was already in the airlock chamber, preparing for first contact. The tall xenobiologist had studied dozens of species, but never anything like this. The readings from the alien ship showed atmospheric requirements similar enough to human norm that they might not need full containment suits, a lucky break given the time pressure. "Docking seal established," the computer announced. "Warning, alien vessel structural integrity at 18% and falling. Beginning entry sequence," Samira announced, her team ready behind her. The inner door of the airlock opened to reveal a sight that took her breath away. 2 beings stood, or rather floated, before them. The taller one was humanoid in basic shape, but seemed to be made of living light, its skin shifting through shades of blue and silver. The smaller one, clearly a child, glowed a faint purple, but the light was flickering dangerously. "Hello," Samira said softly, holding up empty hands. "We're here to help." The adult being's light pattern shifted rapidly, and then a voice emerged from their universal translator. "Please, my daughter first. Her core temperature is critical." Suddenly, the ship rocked with weapons fire. Above them, the battle had begun. Isabella had ordered evasive maneuvers, but their options were limited while connected to the crystal ship. The raiders pressed their advantage, their shots growing closer with each pass. "Hull breach on Deck 7, Patel reported. "Emergency force fields holding." "Return fire," Isabella ordered. "Target their weapons systems only. And give me an update from the medical team." Down in the airlock, Samira and her team were carefully transferring the alien child onto a hover stretcher. The little one's light had dimmed to almost nothing. "Her cellular structure is failing," Samira reported through her comm. "Captain, we need to get her to medical immediately." "Slight problem with that," Isabella replied as another blast rocked the ship. "We've got company." The adult alien's light flared with sudden intensity. Through the translator came, "My ship, it has one last defense. But using it will destroy the vessel completely." "What kind of defense?" Isabella asked quickly. "Light itself. Pure energy. But I need your ship's power to amplify it." Isabella looked at the tactical display. The raiders were moving in for the kill shot. Sometimes the greatest risks brought the greatest rewards. Do it! What happened next would be talked about in spaceports for decades to come. The crystalline ship began to pulse with building energy, drawing power from the Artemis. The raiders, sensing something was wrong, began to pull back too late. A wave of pure light erupted from the dying ship, expanding outward in a perfect sphere. When it touched the raider vessels, their systems went dark. All three ships drifted powerless. "Direct hit to their primary systems," Way reported, amazed. "They're dead in space." But there was no time to celebrate. The crystal ship was breaking apart, its structure finally giving way. The last of its crew was barely through the airlock when it shattered into a million glittering pieces. In the medical bay, Samira and her team worked frantically to save the alien child, while the adult, who they learned was called Lyra, watched anxiously, her own light flickering with worry. They had won the battle, but the war for survival was far from over. As Isabella called for Federation backup to deal with the disabled raiders, she couldn't help but wonder what other surprises their new guests might hold. One thing was certain, this was only the beginning of a much bigger story. The medical bay of the Artemis hummed with activity, as Dr. Rhodes worked to stabilize the alien child. The young one's purple glow had weakened to barely a flicker, like a candle flame in a strong wind. Lyra hovered nearby, her own silvery blue light pulsing with anxiety. "Their biology is extraordinary," Samira explained to Captain Reyes, who had come down from the bridge once the immediate danger had passed. "Their cells don't just produce bioluminescence, the light is integral to their life processes. They literally feed on energy. Can you help them?" Isabella asked, watching as medical staff adjusted energy field generators around the child's bed. "We're trying something new," Samira replied. "We've modified our tissue regeneration units to emit specific wavelengths of light energy. It seems to be helping, but—" She hesitated. "But what?" "But we're working blind here. We need to understand more about their physiology, and fast." Samira turned to Lyra. "I need you to trust us enough to tell us exactly how your bodies work. No holding back." Lyra's light shifted through various patterns before she responded through the translator. "Among my people, sharing the secrets of our biology is forbidden. Too many have tried to weaponize our abilities." Isabella stepped forward. "We just fought pirates to save you. We've opened our ship, our medical bay, ourselves to unknown risks. All to help you and your child. Please, trust goes both ways." Lyra's glow dimmed momentarily, then brightened with determination. "My daughter's name is Nova," she said finally. "And you're right. I will tell you everything." Over the next hour, Lyra explained how their species, the Luminari, absorbed and processed various forms of energy through specialized cells in their bodies. Their natural glow was both a byproduct and a vital sign of their health. Nova's failing light meant her energy absorption systems were shutting down. "Fascinating," Samira muttered, adjusting her instruments. "It's like a combination of photosynthesis and nuclear fusion, but on a cellular level." Meanwhile, on the bridge, Lieutenant Patel made a disturbing discovery. "Captain," he called over the comm, "I've been analyzing the raiders' attack pattern. They knew exactly where to find that ship. Someone must have tipped them off." Isabella frowned. "Meaning there's a leak somewhere. Keep digging, but quietly." Back in medical, Samira's team had rigged a specialized treatment chamber, combining different forms of energy, light, heat, even mild radiation in precisely controlled bursts. Nova's small form floated in the center, her glow strengthening by degrees. "It's working," Lyra whispered, her own light brightening with hope. Suddenly, Nova's eyes opened, and her purple glow surged brightly. The medical equipment around her sparked in response, and for a moment, the entire bay was bathed in a rainbow of dancing lights. "Extraordinary," Samira breathed. "She's not just absorbing the energy, she's amplifying it, redirecting it. She's gifted," Lyra explained proudly. "Among our people, such abilities are rare. It's one reason we had to flee. There are those who would." She trailed off, her light dimming with painful memories. "Who would use her as a weapon," Isabella finished, understanding dawning. "The Raiders weren't just after your ship's technology, were they? They were after Nova." Lyra's light pulsed in patterns that the translator interpreted as both confirmation and distress. "Our people have always been hunted for our abilities. But Nova, her potential is unprecedented. Our own government wanted to study her. So we ran." Isabella placed a hand near Lyra, careful not to touch, but offering comfort through proximity. "You're safe now. Both of you." But even as she spoke the words, alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the ship. Lieutenant Patel's voice came over the comm, tense with urgency. "Captain! 3 more ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're not raiders, the design matches Lyra's crystal ship, but militarized." Isabella met Lyra's glowing eyes. "Your government found you. They'll never stop." Lyra's light flickered with fear. "They'll claim jurisdiction over us as citizens. They'll take Nova." Isabella straightened, her jaw set with determination. "No, they won't." She tapped her comm badge. "Bridge, this is the captain." Red alert. "All hands to battle stations." She turned to Lyra. "Your government may see your daughter as a weapon. We see her as a child who needs protection. And that's exactly what she's going to get." As the Artemis's crew prepared for confrontation, Nova's glow steadied and brightened, casting dancing patterns on the medical bay walls. The young Luminari reached out and touched Isabella's hand, the first direct contact between their species. Instead of pain or shock, Isabella felt a gentle warmth and saw images in her mind, stars being born, galaxies dancing, the pure joy of light itself. In that moment, she understood what they were really fighting for, not just 2 refugees, but the right of all beings to live free from fear and exploitation. The next few hours would test not just their weapons and shields, but their principles and determination. The Luminari warships drew closer, their crystalline hulls glowing with barely contained power. The true battle was about to begin. "This is Commander Vex of the Luminari Defense Force," a stern voice echoed through the bridge speakers. "You are harboring fugitives of the Stellar Concordat. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded." Isabella stood at the center of her bridge, shoulders squared. "This is Captain Isabella Reyes of the Federation starship Artemis. Your fugitives have requested asylum. Under interstellar law, we are obligated to protect them until their case can be properly heard. Your laws do not apply here," Commander Vex responded, his translated voice carrying a hint of disdain. "The child is vital to Luminari security. Surrender them, or we will take them by force. Chief Engineer Parker," Isabella called over the comm, ignoring the threat. "How are those modifications coming?" "Almost there, Captain," came the reply from engineering. "But I have to warn you, what we're attempting has never been done before. The power requirements alone could burn out our cores." The Luminari ships moved into attack formation, their crystalline hulls pulsing with building energy. In the medical bay, Nova suddenly sat up, her purple glow intensifying. "They're powering weapons," she said through the translator, her young voice trembling. but different from before. They're going to try to disable your ship without destroying it. Lyra's light flickered with alarm. Nova, you shouldn't be able to sense that from this distance, your powers are growing stronger. Captain, Dr. Rhodes called for medical. Nova's energy readings are off the scale. Whatever they're planning, she can sense it. We might be able to use that. Isabella's mind raced. They were outgunned, but sometimes the best defense was the unexpected. Doctor, can Nova interface with our systems the way she did with the medical equipment? Theoretically, yes, but no. Lyra interrupted. It could kill her. She's just a child. Mother. Nova's voice was suddenly stronger. I want to help. These humans risked everything for us. Let me try. The first blast from the Luminari ships rocked the Artemis. Shields held, but barely. 60 seconds to full weapons discharge. Lieutenant Patel reported tensely. Isabella made her decision. Dr. Rhodes, bring Nova to engineering if she's willing. Lyra, we'll need your help too. We're not giving up without a fight, but we're doing this on her terms. In engineering, Chief Parker had rigged a makeshift interface chamber, connecting the ship's power systems to the same energy field generators they'd used to heal Nova. The young Luminari floated in the center, her purple glow reflecting off the metallic walls. The plan is simple, Parker explained, his weathered face serious. They're going to hit us with an energy weapon designed to overwhelm our systems. But instead of trying to block it, we're going to take the energy and redirect it. Nova finished, understanding dawning in her glowing eyes. Like the light game Mother taught me, but bigger. Much bigger. Isabella confirmed. But only if you're sure. Nova's glow brightened with determination. I'm sure. The Luminari ships fired as one, their combined energy beam cutting through space like a sword of light. At the same moment, Nova closed her eyes and reached out with her unique abilities. The impossible happened. Instead of overwhelming the Artemis' systems, the energy beam seemed to pause mid-strike. Then, like water flowing backward, it began to curl and twist, drawn into the human ship's hull where Nova's purple glow now shone through every window and panel. On the bridge, displays flickered wildly as power readings went off the scale. Engineering report. Isabella called. She's doing it. Parker shouted back, awe in his voice. She's actually doing it. The energy. She's not just redirecting it. She's transforming it somehow. In the interface chamber, Nova had become a being of pure light, her small form barely visible within the radiance. Lyra watched in amazement as her daughter performed a feat thought impossible by their people, the complete transmutation of hostile energy into harmless light. Commander Vex's voice came through again, this time with clear shock. Impossible! Our sensors must be malfunctioning. The energy readings. No malfunction, Isabella replied calmly. Just a child choosing to turn your weapon into something beautiful. Ready for another demonstration? The Luminari ships were already backing away, their weapons powering down. In engineering, Nova's glow returned to normal as she settled gently into her mother's embrace. Well done, little one, Isabella said softly. Captain, Patel's excited voice came from the bridge. You're going to want to see this. The energy Nova transformed. It's created some kind of phenomenon in space. On every screen and through every viewport, they could see it a massive aurora of shifting colors, spanning the space between the ships like a bridge made of light. In that moment, even the Luminari military vessels seemed to pause in wonder. A gift, Nova explained tiredly. To remind everyone that light should bring beauty, not pain. Isabella smiled. They had won this battle not through superior firepower or clever tactics, but through the wisdom of a child who chose to answer aggression with art. But as the aurora danced around them, she knew their journey wasn't over. They still had to secure Nova and Lyra's safety, deal with the political fallout, and protect their newfound knowledge from those who would misuse it. The light bridge continued to shimmer in space, a testament to possibility and hope. Perhaps, Isabella thought, this was how real change began, not with grand declarations or shows of force, but with simple acts of transformation. The following week aboard the Artemis was unlike any in Federation history. The massive aurora nova had created remained stable, becoming a symbol that drew the attention of both Federation and Luminari diplomatic corps. In her quarters, Isabella reviewed the latest transmission from Federation Command with a mixture of pride and exhaustion. "They're actually going to do it," she told Lyra, who was helping Nova adjust to her growing abilities. "The Federation Council is officially recognizing your asylum claim. More than that, they're offering to host peace talks with your government." Nova, who was practicing creating small light sculptures in the air, paused to ask, "Does this mean we don't have to run anymore?" "No more running," Isabella confirmed, watching the young luminaries glow brighten with joy. "But we have something even more important to discuss. Your abilities. They've opened up possibilities no one thought existed." Dr. Rhodes entered with her latest findings displayed on a tablet. "Nova's gift isn't just energy manipulation, it's true synthesis. She can transform hostile energy into beneficial forms. The applications for sustainable power, environmental restoration, even healing. The very things our government claimed they wanted." Lyra's light pulsed with complex emotions. "But they sought to force it, to weaponize it. They never considered simply asking." Commander Vex had been replaced by a Luminari diplomatic delegation led by Ambassador Solara, whose more moderate views had long been overshadowed by military hardliners. The Aurora Bridge had changed everything. It was proof that cooperation yielded better results than coercion. In the ship's newly modified observation lounge, the first official meeting between Federation and Luminari representatives was about to begin. But before it did, Nova had requested to speak. The young Luminari floated to the center of the room, her purple glow steady and strong. With a gesture, she created a miniature replica of both the Artemis and the Luminari ships, connected by the Aurora Bridge, all formed from pure light. "My people believe that light is life," she began, her translator conveying the clarity and wisdom that often comes from children. "But we forgot that life isn't about control, it's about growth and change. The humans didn't try to control my power. They helped me understand it instead." Ambassador Solara's own golden glow rippled with interest. "And what have you understood, young one?" Nova smiled, causing her light sculpture to transform. Now it showed multiple worlds, connected by bridges of light. "That the greatest power isn't in weapons or control. It's in choice. Every day, we can choose between casting shadows or creating light." The diplomatic discussions that followed would last months, but their foundation was built in that moment. The Luminari agreed to establish a joint research initiative with the Federation, focused on peaceful applications of their energy manipulation abilities. More importantly, they acknowledged the right of their people to choose their own paths. Isabella watched from her captain's chair as the first official cultural exchange began. Young Luminari, eager to learn control and choice rather than suppression, arrived to study alongside Federation scientists. Human researchers, fascinated by the possibilities of light-based technology, traveled to Luminari worlds not as exploiters but as colleagues. "Captain's log, supplemental," Isabella recorded one evening, watching Nova teach a group of human children how to play traditional Luminari light games in the recreation deck. "What began as a rescue mission has evolved into something far more significant. We've discovered that the greatest breakthroughs don't come from force or fear, but from trust and understanding." Lyra, now serving as a cultural advisor for the exchange program, joined her at the viewport. Together they watched as Nova's latest light sculpture, a perfect replica of both their home worlds orbiting each other, floated gently in the ship's artificial gravity. "You know," Isabella said thoughtfully, "when I first heard that distress signal, I never imagined it would lead to all this." "When I first sent it," Lyra replied, her glow warm with friendship, "I only hoped to save my daughter. Instead, we may have helped save both our peoples from their fears." Nova's voice called out excitedly from across the deck. "Mother, Captain, look!" The young Luminari had created something new, a light sculpture showing the Artemis, but with crystalline elements growing from its hull like beautiful, organic armor. "I call it a harmony ship, part human, part Luminari. Do you think we could build one someday?" Isabella and Lyra exchanged glances, both remembering the frightened child who had barely survived just a week ago. Now here she was, already imagining a future where both their people's strengths were combined. "Someday," Isabella answered, "I believe we'll build something even better." As the Artemis continued its mission of exploration, it carried with it a new kind of light, not just the glow of its Luminari guests, but the brightness of possibility that comes when different peoples choose to reach for the stars together. The Aurora Bridge had long since faded from space, but its real legacy lived on in the bonds formed between two species who discovered that the greatest power in the universe wasn't in controlling light, but in sharing it. End of story.